Hello there. It is 1 minute past 8 o'clock here on Wednesday evening. I just hopped on live on Instagram, which I don't usually do, but I thought I've actually put on makeup especially for you guys because I've just been working from home today. I thought I'd make myself look presentable, and then I thought, well, hey, why not use that opportunity to go live on Instagram as well? So just a bit of, I'm feeling a bit casual now, just sort of strolling into the group, but we are here, we made it. And back again after a beautiful day here in the UK. We're having gorgeous weather. I don't know where you guys are in the world. If you are watching, then let me know where you are. We've got a couple of good weeks coming up here in the UK, so pretty much close to 30 degrees Celsius, which is very good for us here in England. I was in Sweden back in, I think it was February now, and it was absolutely gorgeous. It was so warm and sunny. And for those of you who don't know, I'm Swedish. My parents are Swedish. And unfortunately, this weekend is midsummer, and midsummer traditionally in Sweden is really rainy. So, you know, to some extent that sort of fits the stereotype, but it's such a shame because they've had weeks and months of beautifully sunny weather. And now, you know, now the big event has happened. It's when we go and dance around the maypole. We stay out until, you know, the sun doesn't really set and have all these wonderful drinks and food and so on with our friends out in the countryside. And unfortunately, it's going to be quite sort of miserable. So what a shame. But here in England, we've got beautiful weather here in the south of England, at least. So looking forward to that. But anyway, enough of the weather chat. I want to say hello, and I know we have a few new members as ever this week, so welcome to the group. My name's Anna, really lovely to have you here. I'm the founder of One Step Outside, that's the name of this group, and I'm really here to help you build a business and a lifestyle that brings you more freedom, flexibility and fulfillment. So hopefully you're in the right place. I'm in here every Wednesday evening, more or less, 8 o'clock UK time, so I know it's hard to join if you're on a different time zone, but if you can, I'd love for you to join live. It's your opportunity, you know, to ask questions, to interact with me, to see what other people are commenting as well, and depending on the topic, you know, it can be something that can really help you move forwards. And of course, I'd love to hear your questions, comments, any suggestions for content. More than happy to create future topics and sessions and all sorts of resources for you as well. So that's why I'm here. I'm not here just to talk to myself, although it may seem that way sometime, but I'm really here to help you guys. So I'd love to hear from you and where you're focusing at the moment, what would be most helpful to you. I did a Facebook challenge in here a few weeks ago, a 5-day challenge. I think I'm going to do another one of those because we had so much fun. So watch this space. I think probably in a few weeks' time we'll bring up a new challenge. So keep an eye out for that, and that will hopefully be really fun as well. We got lots of engagement last time, lots of fun GIFs as our homework. So hopefully you'll enjoy that too. But this month we've been focusing on freelancing. So next week here in England, we have the National Freelancers Day in the UK. So IPSE is a organisation for freelancers and self-employed, and they organise this event every year. I went there last year and I thought, well, it's a perfect opportunity to focus on freelancing. Because I talk about that freedom, flexibility and fulfillment, I think freelancing is a great way of getting those three things. And it's certainly, and I talk about this a lot, a good transition. It's sort of an easy win, easy transition. It may not feel that way to you at the start, but it can be easier than many other things like building your business. It's quite sort of a quick win, quick transition from a full-time job into more of that flexibility and freedom, because you are hopefully going to be using skills that you already have, the network of connections that you have, expertise, experience, and you're just taking that and sort of doing the same thing you've been doing essentially. So you have the confidence, you have the contacts, you have the experience, and it's just sort of a great way to begin to do what you know how to do, but with a bit more control over your time, choosing your clients and so on. So that's why I think freelancing is a great focus area. I still do some freelancing work. I do freelance writing for a couple of websites like 99 Designs, which is a branding crowdsourcing design website actually. I got my logo and my book cover design done there, but I also write articles for them, for example. And I do also write sort of video scripts within business strategy and digital marketing and so on. So that's my freelancing side, freelancing hat, if you will. But of course, I have this coaching business as well, and that's a great way to do it. Actually, moving forwards to have those different streams of income. But we're talking about freelancing. First week, a couple of weeks ago, we looked at why is freelancing a great alternative to the 9 to 5, and how does it bring you that freedom and flexibility and so on. So check that out if you haven't watched it, if you're not convinced yet. The second one last week, we talked about how you can get started. So if we have tempted you, how can you actually get started as a freelancer? And then this week, we're talking about the challenges of freelancing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to post my article link to you here, because I don't want to repeat everything that's in there. I think it's quite a comprehensive list of a few of the challenges. But I thought I'd come on and just talk a little bit more generally about this dreaded roller coaster that can be a freelancer's worst nightmare. And I think it's a bit of a stereotype. There's certainly some truth to it. There's a feeling of being on that roller coaster, the feast or famine, being dependent on just a few clients, having too much money and too much work. Too much money sounds good, doesn't it? One week, and then too little work the next week, and really those extremes. And I think that's the biggest fear we have, perhaps, of not earning enough money and therefore being beholden to our clients and so on. And then once we are freelancers, I've been chatting to a lot of freelancers in the last few weeks as part of my research and work here, in particular on LinkedIn. And people have said, I just don't want to have to pitch myself over and over, and I'm sick of these difficult clients, and it's just not stable enough for me. And it's such a shame, because I think there are so many things we can do to make it more stable, to take back a bit of ownership from those difficult clients, to make better choices, and to, as I'll talk about next week in particular, think of yourself as a business. And that's really going to help you bring the level of strategy and stability and proactivity that you need in order to have a successful freelancing career. So I'll just talk through the challenges I have in the article. I've had to look at the list here so I don't make them up, although I'll probably think of some other challenges along the way. So one is knowing your worth, being able to set the right rate. So if you have any questions on that, let me know. I have a module on pricing strategy in my group program that launched a couple of weeks ago, where people have just started this Friday, so that's exciting. But it's a big topic. It obviously requires a lot of sort of strategic thinking and looking at the money you need and looking at what competitors are doing and so on. But I think that's one of the biggest challenges. It's knowing how much you should be setting to achieve your income goals, and also to sort of fit in the market as well and not sell yourself short. I think most people, unfortunately, are undercharging for their services. Getting comfortable with selling yourself. So that's a big one. We say, oh, I don't want to sell and be sleazy. I just want to serve people. I just want to make a difference in the world. And that's all well and good. But now that you're no longer, or when you are no longer under the umbrella of a big company, where there is a sales team, where there is that big logo, that big name that you're working under, you are going to need to have to learn to sell yourself. So it's best to get comfortable with that sooner rather than later. What else? We have managing difficult clients. I've mentioned that. And, difficult can mean different things to different people, and you won't know what it means until you actually experience it. But difficult can be, they don't pay on time. I saw someone post about that on LinkedIn the other day. They make unreasonable demands. They give you last minute deadlines, and they treat you badly. They communicate poorly. They criticize and so on. So I'm sure, unfortunately, you will get to experience this along the way. But it's a matter of learning to sort of trust your gut feel, identify those tricky clients up front, and then being able to actually avoid those in the future, or at least manage them, or potentially raise your rates to the roof to make sure that if you do have to work with them, at least it's going to be worthwhile for the piggy bank. And the last three, the most important, maybe managing your workload and setting boundaries. So that's really the key area that I'm so passionate about. And if you've been part of my community for a while, we've had a big focus on your well-being, having well-being and a well-being strategy actually right at the heart of your business. And when you work for yourself, looking after yourself, taking care of yourself is taking care of your business. So even if you only care about money and profit and making sales and so on, actually looking after yourself is going to be absolutely key. And remembering, of course, why you wanted to start this freelancing business in the first place, which most likely is very individual, but will probably include more time for yourself, for your family, for your loved ones, taking care of your health better, having more spare time, and so on. And if you're getting caught up in, you know, you're not able to say no, you're taking on too much work, your workload just unmanageable, you'll be then seeping into the evenings and weekends and family time, and that's not what you're doing this for. So that's incredibly important to learn how to say no and set boundaries and manage that workload. So you really need to know what you're after, what your goals are in order to do that. And then the feast or famine cycle, which is what I started out by talking, you know, having 1 week, 1 day, a lot of clients. And we can sometimes have great conversations. Certainly when I was starting out, it seemed so promising. All these people were interested in bringing me in. I was doing marketing consulting at the time. And then from one day to the next, they can all fall through. Likewise, it can seem like, you know, nothing's really happening. And then from out of the blue, someone can come along and offer you a fantastic project. So while that's exciting, and while there's an element of having a bit of faith and trusting that those will come, there's also an element of being more proactive, making sure you're doing the due diligence, the business development work, so you're not just sort of spending your time doing client work and then ta-da, project finished, now I have no clients, what do I do? So we need to be really spending time doing that. And so I guess the 3 key messages here, and again I will link to the article so I don't repeat myself too much, but the first message I want to really emphasize, and I always do, is that you need to define what success looks like for you. So whether you're considering freelancing, you've just started freelancing, or you're already freelancing, I've said freelancing about 100,000 times in this live, but that's okay, because that's what we're talking about. So wherever you are in that journey, understanding what it is you want from your freelancing specifically, from your career, from your life more generally, is going to be paramount. So that means, what kind of income are you after? And you can have sort of a stretch dream goal and then a more realistic, very necessary target in terms of being able to get by and so on and take care of your family. Understanding the income, understanding the types of hours you want to work. Are there certain times, you know, do you want to definitely be able to pick up your kids a certain time? Do you want to be able to, you know, wind down in the evening and not work then? Do you want to have a lie-in? Do you want to have weekends off? Do you want to work weekends and have other, you know, whatever that looks like for you, but working out what the criteria are. So money, time, the type of work you want to be doing, the clients, and so on. Now, it can feel like when you're starting out that you don't have the luxury to have to make those decisions as to, you know, saying no to someone and saying, oh no, it's not quite the right fit for me. But what I would urge you to do is be a bit more intentional and a bit more courageous and confident in actually saying no to some of those up front when they're not right. The reason being that if you, from the beginning of your business, from the beginning of your freelancing career, get clients and build a business around those difficult clients, the low rates, the hard sort of long hours of working, etc., the uninteresting work, and the stuff that's not what you want to be doing, then you are going to succeed in building a business that is based on those things. So more clients will hear about the fact that you can do these things. Those clients who aren't paying you very much will spread the word that you're a great cheap freelancer. You know, you'll feel more and more desperate because you're not making enough money, and you will be tied into that vicious cycle of doing exactly what you didn't want to do. So just like if we think back, and I'm sure you can either relate to this yourself, or maybe you've got friends or colleagues who've gone through this, just as after university, a lot of us sort of took on jobs and internships temporarily as just, we'll just do this to sort of pay the bills and then we'll do our dream job. You may have noticed that we end up often not actually getting to doing that dream job. And the same thing I think happens with freelancing and running your own business, because you will get caught up building a successful freelancing career in an area that you don't want to do. And then years down the line, you're thinking, hang on, this isn't what I wanted. And you'll either end up going back to your full-time job, or you'll continue indefinitely and it'll be horrible. So I really would urge you to have a bit of faith, take a step back, and above all, and I'm not saying to say no to every project, but I'm saying be intentional when you take on projects. So make sure you know why you're taking it on. Is it because it is a massive amount of money and that's actually going to then free up time and energy to work on other things, in which case, you know, as long as it's not something unethical and so on, it might be a good idea. Is it because you're going to get some amazing company's logo? You know, when you're first starting out, you want to have sort of those client testimonials and so on. So I worked with Burberry, I worked with a big company called Virtu, who've since got into liquidation, but nonetheless, they were big at the time. You know, having those big company logos and testimonials can really help at the beginning. So if that's a reason, then that's great. That's an important and valid reason as well. Or it could be, you know, connections, they know somebody, or it's in a new area that you're trying to get into, you have absolutely no experience. There can be lots of different reasons, or maybe you just don't have a lot of work now, so you might as well do it, sort of a low-hanging fruit. But really be intentional about how this project fits into your definition of success, how it's going to get you closer to the goals that you have, and make sure you don't get carried away. Make sure also that you don't become too dependent again on one or two clients. If you're doing all your work with one client, it can feel fantastic, but what if they, you know, they liquidate, they go bankrupt, or they don't need you anymore, or, you know, or whatever happens, then you're sort of out at sea and you don't have any other clients. So that's something just to bear in mind, to not sort of get too excited about one client bringing in all the money. So that's defining success, being intentional. And then the final one, and we're going to talk about this a bit more next week. I've got a money mindset, millennial money finances expert coming on next week, who I've interviewed already, actually. So I'll be sharing her insights. And I 100% agree with everything she said. So I was really happy to talk to her, because we were talking about how we need to think of ourselves as a business. So even if you're just freelancing, or that's the first step or the only step you're going to take out of the 9 to 5, and then really thinking of yourself as a business rather than just being self-employed, just being an individual, is going to help you. It's going to help you step into the role of being CEO of your company. My coach has that as a message, and I thought that was a really important one for me. So not just a super employee, but you're managing and overseeing the whole business. It means you're going to have a business plan, nothing too complex, but, you know, understanding what are your different revenue streams. And you should have different revenue streams. How are you going to package those services? Who's your ideal client, customer? What makes you credible, and so on? Think about your brand and so on. So that's something that's incredibly important, even when you're freelancing, even though it might not come so naturally. And it also helps with proactive marketing. So establishing your credibility, establishing your online presence in potentially a new area, or, you know, making it known to people that you are freelancing and so on. But building your presence, building your authority is incredibly important. Again, you know, thinking of yourself as a business, getting your name out there and so on will be really important there. So those are the 3 key sort of tips I want to leave you with. Number 1, define success. Number 2, be intentional. And number 3, think of yourself as a business. And again, we're going to talk a bit more about that next week. So again, I'll link to the article in terms of those, what was it, 6 or 7 big challenges. If you're watching the replay, then let me know, comment. If you agree, disagree, have a different challenge that I haven't mentioned. If you have any questions about anything that I've been saying, you know, I've tried to focus now in the last few minutes at least on the positive, on how you can avoid those challenges. Because again, I think this is not the inevitable sort of fate of a freelancer. And there are many freelancers who, you know, are making very significant incomes. I just listened to a podcast of someone who was making multiple 7 figures, whatever they were saying. But, you know, it's totally possible to do more than I think you can. So, you know, again, a bit of faith and a bit of confidence, and some really rigorous business strategy and marketing strategy, and you can absolutely make this work. So I hope you found that interesting. Again, next week we'll be back for our final week on freelancing, looking at some of those more advanced strategies of how you can think of yourself as a business, how you can sort of think of how to create products and diversified income streams, and also specifically on how you can even out that money of the roller coaster that we talked about as well. So thanks so much for joining. Let me know if you're watching the replay. Love to chat to you. I can't obviously respond to you in person, but I will be able to respond to your comments. And again, I'm back here every Wednesday evening, 8 o'clock UK time, if you want to join me live. And we'll see what topic we get onto after the freelancing focus. But thanks so much for joining. Have a fantastic week. Hope you have good weather as well, wherever you are. And I'll see you very soon. Bye for now.